of the first things that occurred, the first tactics that the mushrikun employed after the Battle of Badr was they planned a secret assassination attempt upon the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they tried to send a lone assassin, a solitary assassin, to somehow kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the story is mentioned in Ibn Hisham, and that is that after the Battle of Badr, Safwan ibn Umayyah, he is the son of Umayyah ibn Khalaf. So his father has been killed. And Umayyah ibn Khalaf's son had also been killed, another one. So his brother has also been killed. His father and brother have both been killed. Safwan ibn Umayyah was sitting with his cousin, Umayr ibn Wahab al-Jumahi, that was his cousin. And they began talking about the Battle of Badr and how they had been humiliated. And Umayr's own son had been taken a prisoner of war. And other problems that happened to the both of them in the Battle of Badr. And by the way, Umayr, if you remember, Umayr ibn Wahab was the one whom the mushrikun chose to go and scout the Muslim army from afar and to give them an estimate. And Umayr had come back and he said, I think they're 300 and something. And he goes, I see much destruction and defeat if you attack them. I see in their eyes iman and courage. And I see that they are not scared. He could see this from that far distance. This is Umayr ibn Wahab. And his cousin was, as we said, Safwan ibn Umayyah. And so they began criticizing this religion of Islam and the Prophet ﷺ and what they could have done if they had only had the power to do so, until finally Umayr blurted out. And this is what foolish men do when they're talking to one another. They boast and they try to be arrogant and they try to show their manhood. Umayr said, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, if it weren't for the fact that I have children that I have to take care of, and I also have a loan on my shoulders that I have to repay, I personally would have gone to Medina and killed the Prophet ﷺ solitarily, single-handedly. I would be willing to do this. This is the reason, the only reason I'm not doing it is that I have some family to take care of and I have a loan to repay. At this, Safwan took this golden opportunity and he said, if that is your excuse, then from now on, your children are like my children and your loan is repaid. Tell me who to pay it to and how much. Here is the money and go and repay it. And go and do this dastardly deed. And now, Umayr had already said it. You cannot get out of it now. And so Umayr said, okay, if you wish me to do this, then we are sitting in front of the Kaaba. They had plotted this in front of the Kaaba, sitting in the shade of the Kaaba. And Umayr said, then swear by Allah you will not tell anybody. Just me and you. No one, not even your wife or family should know about this. And allow me to do my deed, and only we know this matter. Because Umayr knew that if he were to go and do this, he would not come back alive. This is what they call a suicide mission. A suicide mission to go kill the Prophet ﷺ into the heart of Medina. And kill him, and then after that there is no way Umayr can escape after that. So he wanted to go and kill the Prophet ﷺ even at the expense of his own life, and then he said, you will take care of my family and repay my debt. In this case, Umayr said, I'm willing to do it, and so Umayr went back home immediately, did not tell anybody where he is going, not even his own wife or children. He armed himself, put on his sword, his sharp sword, and he dipped it in a special type of poison. He took his sword and he dipped it in a special type of poison. All that was needed was that sword touch the skin of the Prophet ﷺ and just prick it, just one drop of blood, and that poison would enter the system, and that is it. That was all that was needed. And so he dipped that special sword of his, that extra sharp sword, he dipped it in that poison and he put it into the scabbard and he armed himself, he put on his armor, and he then rode out to Medina alone without telling a single person where he was going. And it was also the case at this time that Umayr's son was still a prisoner of war. So Umayr's son was still a prisoner of war in Badr, and he did not have any money actually to repay, and that was even why he was even more angry, that I don't even have money to get my son back. And so Umayr's son was a captive in the Muslim army, or in the Muslim city of Medina, and so he went straight to the city of Medina, and he dismounted in front of the masjid, and he then came in with his sword, with his armor, with his everything. And the first person to see him and to recognize him was Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar ibn al-Khattab saw him and he said, this kalb, this dog, I know that he is here for some evil. This enemy of Allah, he has no good in him. Everybody knows, remember, again and again we say, Mecca was a small city, everybody knew everybody else, there are no strangers. And so Umar ibn al-Khattab recognized Umayr, and he knows who Umayr is. And he said, this kalb, this dog, this evil person, enemy of Allah, he is not here for any good. He has caused us much evil. And this was the person, Umar is speaking to the Muslims, this was the person whom the Quraysh sent at Badr to scout us and to give them information. Umar immediately rushed to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, Umayr ibn Wahab is here. The Prophet ﷺ said, bring him to me, but take precautions. Look, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, bring him to me, but stay guard. And so Umar radiallahu anhu took his sword and placed it around his neck. They had a hanging thing to do so. And he told some of the Ansar as well to take their swords and to accompany Umayr to the Prophet ﷺ. The masjid is a large place. So Umayr was entering the masjid, and so the Ansar and Umar armed themselves with the things that they had, and they then went as a delegation and surrounded Umayr, and they allowed him to come forth with all of this protection. And the Prophet ﷺ had told him, allow him to come, but watch his every move and be careful, for this khabith cannot be trusted. This is the Prophet ﷺ. This filthy person cannot be trusted. I know him, and he is coming for evil. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. And this shows us, subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ took precautions. He took precautions. Why? Because this is the perfection of tawakkul. You do not just sit back and say, oh, whatever Allah wills, it will happen. No, you do what you have to. And then in your heart, you put your trust in Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ told Umar and the Ansar, take your guard, put your hand on your sword. Be careful that you watch every single move. So when Umayr came to the Prophet ﷺ, the first thing he said was, In'amu sabahan. Good morning. Good morning. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has blessed us with a greeting better than this, O Umayr. And it is the greeting of salam, the greeting of the people of Jannah. Now notice here, subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ is basically giving him da'wah. Giving him da'wah, and he's saying, Umayr, we have a different religion now. And of the things that Allah has blessed us with, we have a better greeting. We have a better way of saying salam. And that is Assalamu alaikum. Also notice the beauty. The Prophet ﷺ did not say Assalamu alaikum to him. Why? Because you cannot say Assalamu alaikum to a pagan. You cannot. So the Prophet ﷺ did not say, Oh Umayr, Assalamu alaikum. Rather he said, Allah has blessed us with a greeting better than this. Meaning that this is a religion, you should also think of accepting it. Umayr said, by Allah, O Muhammad, this is something new to me. I have never heard it, neither myself nor my forefathers. Meaning, why should I give up my greeting of good morning for your greeting, which I have never heard? The Prophet ﷺ then said, O Umayr, what has brought you all the way here? What are you doing in Medina? What are you doing all the way far away from your land and your country and your city of Mecca? The Prophet ﷺ asked him, what is the reason of your visit? He said, I want to free my son. I brought the ransom. This was a lie. He doesn't have any money. I came to free my son. I wanted to ransom him. He is a prisoner of war, and I wanted to come here to ransom him. So the Prophet ﷺ pointed to the sword. He said, with that thing? He had his sword, right? He said, you're going to ransom him with a sword? You come with a sword to go ransom your son? And so Umayr looked down, and he pretended as if he's seeing it for the first time. He said, oh, this thing here, as if he's seeing it for the first time. He said, what good has these weapons brought us? May Allah curse them all. What has it benefited us at Badr? Meaning, so what if we had weapons at Badr, we were not able to win over you, nor were we able to beat over you. What has this got to do us? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, tell me the truth, O Umayr. Why are you here? What has brought you all the way here? Umayr said, it is like I told you. I have come here to free my son. I have come here to give you the ransom to free my son. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, Umayr, you are lying. You are lying. You have come here in order to kill me. You have come here in order to assassinate me. And Umayr was absolutely dumbfounded. And at this crucial point, this brings us to the conclusion of today's episode. And I know, inshaAllah ta'ala, all of you will tune in to the next episode in order to